Cut out hearts and sprinkle some glitter. Indiana Jones knows it gets better. With a brush in hand and a dream in mind, making magic out of fabric and twine. Craft supplies scattered on the floor. Imagination, we all crave more. Glue and scissors, tape and thread, turning every day into bright red. Hey, Indiana Jones, let your colors fly. Every little project, reaching for the sky. Happy hands and a smile so wide, crafting a world where dreams reside.
Hello and welcome to my channel Crafting with me, Indiana Jones, and welcome to another adventurous episode. I don't know if it's adventurous because I pretty much just stay at home and craft, but today's a blustery, rainy day, and so if you are having a blustery, rainy day, that is like the perfect time to craft. Other people might say to clean, but just put those people aside. It's time to craft, people. Let's get started. Once again, grabbing my stash, and this is Dollar Tree items. Here is one of these canvases with the wooden frames. Now, it's the frame that I was looking for. And I'm going to tell you, yeah, I took out each and every one of these staples, but I would be lying. I got tired after trying and trying and trying. I didn't have a stapler remover anywhere that I could find in the house. And it was the long weekend, so I wasn't going to wait until work started to try to like sneak one out and borrow it. But anyway, doesn't matter because I just decided to rip off of the canvases. Now, don't you worry, dear watcher, because I will not throw away that canvas. You know me better than that. But here I have all of those 4 frames. And yes, you guessed it, I'm going to make a rustic window pane. It is so difficult here in Florida, especially in Miami. No, let me back it up. It's in Miami. You can't find those charming window panes that you see everywhere because we don't have them. We just simply don't have those. And they're not made of wood. They're aluminum for the most part. However, after I finished this video in the Garbage, my favorite place to shop, you know, Chateau Garbage. Anyway, on the side of the road, I found an actual glass pane, you know, window with the wooden frames and everything. And it was, I couldn't believe it. I was like, really, after I finished filming everything and I didn't have enough time to start filming again, but that's okay because I have a farmhouse video coming up at the end of the month on June 22nd, believe it or not. I know, Annie does rustic and farmhouse. Wow. Anyway, here all I'm doing is I'm putting those frames together. I did put a little bit of wood glue. You didn't see it when I put it in, but I did put a little wood glue, and I also used some hot glue and some popsicle sticks to keep those separate frames together. Now I am staining as best as I can. Again, I'm trying to use what I got. So I just had some black paint and watered it down, and using a random sock I found around the house. I probably left Luke sockless or something. No, it was a sock that was an unpaired sock. This is what you do with the unpaired sock. I have a glove on underneath, and this is how I feel is the best way to stain this wood. Now, I had to stain the wood because if you saw earlier, the different frames had different wood colors, so I really had to darken them all just to get them pretty even. Now, what I like about rustic decor, rustic. Anyway, that's all I think about is the B-52s. But whenever I think about rustic is that it's like, you don't have to be perfect because it's rustic, people. So that's the fun of it. It's really, if you haven't gone into rustic before, if you only like shabby chic, actually cottagecore I feel is very close to rustic. So this summer, just try out something new, and that's why I decided to try out rustic and farmhouse. I usually don't stick to that kind of aesthetic, but it's always fun to do something new, especially during the summer. Now you can see that I took some white and I'm just dragging. I'm dry dry painting with the white paint, and I'm just dragging that brush over that wood that's been stained black. And I think it really does give it such a rustic look, and kind of farmhousey. I don't know, is it rustic? Is it farmhouse? You guys have to be the judge. After I'm done with this video, you have to tell me if you feel that I caught the rustic vibe well enough to really be part of this playlist. Now, I found this wonderful moss. You know how much I love and hate moss, but I love this moss wreath. I always wanted a moss wreath. And this, believe it or not, was on clearance. I think it was only $3 at Hobby Lobby. I had to use it. As well as this wonderful ribbon that I think is perfect for rustic decor. Just to add a little touch of, a little touch of shabby chic with rustic. You can do that, a little shabby, a little rustic shabby, I don't know, rustic chic. Rustic chic, I think I like that. I like the name of rustic chic. So let's see if I can manipulate or do this rustic chic. And there is Luna, our quality control cat. She's checking the paint. Luckily, the paint was dry by the time she knocked over the paint. My goodness, my kitty cats keep me on my toes, literally. And now, once again, I'm adding daisies because I really do like daisies, especially for summertime. Something about daisies in summertime. And I had to add some pansies as well because, well, they were part of the Dollar Tree flowers. This floral I actually got from Dollar Tree, and I think it is beautiful. The colors of the pansies are nice and soft, and I just love these beautiful large daisies, and of course adding a little bit of the lavender from Dollar Tree as well, just to keep it in that same motif. So what do you think? Is this what you would call a rustic chic wreath? I really like it. Again, I'm going to keep it inside because Miami heat is brutal, and I want to keep this lovely, pretty wreath inside my home. Here once again is the lovely Luna, my sweet companion cat, and she's going to help me with this wall decor. So first things first, I'm using one of those MBF, signs from the Dollar Tree. I think it was a nautical sign that I had left over from last year. Funny enough, I live in Miami. I don't like nautical or beach decor. I really don't. I don't know why. But anyway, it's just how it is. So here I'm going to try to make this rustic, and I decided to add a little Harlequin motif in the background. Luna took over the whole table practically, well, half of the table, so I'm sorry I'm off to the side there. But I'm just using my Harlequin stencil that I've had for a while, and this is not a perfect stencil. It's actually made to look a little rustic. So I decided to use this beautiful green color, and of course give it some dimension with some white and some gray, because if you've ever done any kind of stenciling, always add a little bit of dimension by adding some highlights and lowlights using gray and whites. And look at how pretty it looks. It almost looks like it's marbled, and little Luna's getting a little pet there by me. And remember that canvas that you thought I threw away? No. Here I am aging and weathering that canvas with some watered down paint that I had left over in my little container there. And if you didn't know, these are those containers that you get with the cheese and the crackers and the Lunchables. Keep those Lunchable containers. They're fantastic for paint. Now I'm using one of my stamps, and these are the IOD crockery stamps, I think they're called. And I think this was just perfect, and on that canvas material it will look fine as a wall pocket. So I decided to create a little wall pocket with that wall decor. Now I forgot to show, but afterwards I did add a little bit. There it is. I did add a little bit of Spanish moss, and believe it or not, Spanish moss grows around my neighborhood. So I literally just reach up into a tree and grab some Spanish moss right after I finish this, but you'll see it later in the end reveal. But what do you think? I love it. I think it's adorable, and I think Luna likes it too. So I hope I'm hitting the shabby rustic chic. I don't know, you tell me. Here's another idea that I had in the back of my mind and I never got to it. This little basket I had in my stash since last year, I believe. So it's time to put it to work for this year. So I didn't like all of that chenille, I don't know what it's called, the chenille trim that was around it. The bright pink and bright yellow just didn't fit with my decor. So I'm going to replace this with this wonderful roll of raffia. I don't usually like to use raffia, but this time it was very easy to use for some reason. It was a big roll of raffia, and it was perfect to make this little basket really look very country and kind of shabby chic. Now, if I really wanted it shabby chic, I might have painted it, just dry brushed it with a little bit of white or a little bit of pink. But as you can see, it's very easy to take off all of that chenille stem and just add whatever you like. I could have also covered this in lace. I could have covered this in ribbons. So it's anything that you'd like to do. And remember, just because Easter has come doesn't mean that spring is over. I think a lot of people are rushing already to summer, and we still have another month or two of spring. And I'm in no rush to get into summer, believe me. So all I'm doing here is securing it with the hot glue as I'm moving up. Now, originally I thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to put some extra little Easter eggs, but it spoke to me in another way. So I decided to add this beautiful little, I guess it's a twine ribbon with the little leaves. I actually like this a lot because it's very cottagecore and just very sweet. And I thought this was perfect just as it was. But then I came up with another idea, which is to make it into a sign. I had this perfect tag sign from last year again in my stash, and I'm using this wonderful paper, and I love the blue background. I think it'll make a nice contrast with the little basket. So using my Mod Podge, I am just going to paint or brush the Mod Podge all over my sign, let it dry for a little bit, let it get tacky, and then I'm going to use my mini iron. I think that's my favorite way of decoupaging nowadays. And again, you don't have to have a mini iron. You can decoupage it any way you like. I have to start trying out the cling, the plastic cling way of decoupaging. I would need to try that out as well. But for this project, I'm just using a little bit of parchment paper so I don't burn the paper or, I don't like getting glue on my little iron. And there you have it. Now I'm going to, I love the way this little basket looks on it. I did do a little bit of whitewash on the blue just so it wouldn't be so stark, but I decided to embellish, and I am so sorry it's off camera here, but I just used some stencils that I had and decided to embellish the little corners of this tag. And again, this isn't necessarily Easter, but I think it's so pretty and springy. I don't know if you can hear the little birds in the background. I stayed a little quiet so you can hear them. They have been so active this morning as I try to finish this video. There you have it. I'm just finishing up the stenciling, and I'm just using regular paint and a sponge. It's the best way to do it. And I just love the vintage feel that it gives to this little project. Now I'm going to glue down my little basket. I really love the way this turned out. I think it's the cutest little thing. And I love, 3D flower baskets. Again, next week, just to remind you, if you're interested, I am hosting what I like to call Flower Palooza. And it's basically creating anything with flowers. So here's a little, preview to items and ideas that I might have for next week. And here I'm adding all of these lovely flowers. Most of these are from Temu and Dollar Tree. And I think it is absolutely perfect as it is. I can't wait to hang this out on my front door for Easter time, just for Easter, because I don't want it to get ruined. But afterwards, this will probably hang on the door of my bedroom. If you're new to my channel, I invite you to please like, share, and subscribe. I love to share my love for crafting and just sharing time with you. Now, every season I love to make headbands, and this is a headband I have made in the past. However, this year I couldn't find those moss-covered rabbits for some reason. Either they sold out at Hobby Lobby and I couldn't find them at the dollar store. But here I'm creating my own, moss-covered rabbits with this I guess it's like moss that you use for like models, like model trains and stuff. So I tried my best at making a moss covered rabbit. And why, you say? Because I'm going to make rabbit ear headbands. So using a regular headband that you can find at the Dollar Tree, I found this vine at Hobby Lobby as well as some beautiful beaded garland that you can either find at the Dollar Tree or you can find at Hobby Lobby. And all I did was create some bunny ears. So this is a different type of bunny ears, and I love it because it's nice and light and it's fun to wear. I mean, if you want to have your little girl wear it, or a teenager, whoever, or even yourself during the Easter lunch celebration. I don't know if I would wear it to church, but it's still very, very cute. And I love, whenever I wear it, I also get a lot of attention if I'm just wearing it about the house, let's say. Everybody likes them. So here I am creating my own little bunny ears. And all I'm doing is gluing down that wired ivy to my little headband there. And you can buy these headbands, like a dozen, for very inexpensive on Amazon or Temu. Temu has them very, very inexpensive, actually. And here is the other beaded garland. I love this garland with the pastel colors. It's absolutely beautiful for spring and especially for Easter. So I'm going to wind these around each of the ears and the headband itself, just to add a little bit more color. Now, once I'm done with all of this, I'm going to add the little bunny rabbit in the middle and embellish it with little flowers or anything else I can find that I would like to add to it. You can have a bow, you can have just flowers, whatever you like to do to create this in your own special way for Easter. Now, continuing my cute little project, I'm going to use Mod Podge, as you saw there. And again, I'm going to use the technique that I like the most, which is putting the Mod Podge on the item, not so much the paper, but on the item. I'm going to decoupage and letting it sit for a little while as it dries. Now, this is a great way to separate the two plies. Just use 2 pieces of tape, one in the front and one in the back ply, and you separate the 2 plies so easily. Actually, I used my heat gun just to dry that Mod Podge a little bit more. It's still a little tacky, but it's not gluey, it's not thick, it's not wet, so there's no wrinkles. That's what wrinkles your napkins or your parchment paper. It's the wet glue. Now, using some parchment paper, I'm just using my little iron, and again, they sell these all different prices. You don't have to buy an expensive little iron, but you can find so many of them at ranging from $9 to $30, whatever it is you prefer. And I think it works wonderfully. If you haven't used this technique, try it out and tell me how you feel about it. Now, all I do is to remove the excess. I'm using my little, what is this called? A scraper? Yeah, I guess it's a scraper, and a little bit of a razor, and that's it. I am done. I think this makes such a huge difference, and it's a beautiful cottage core little tray, absolutely perfect for Easter and spring. So I hope you can find something similar to this and revamp it just for spring. Recently, I have been starting to sell some of my items at a church bazaars for spring. It's perfect timing. And at one of them, I found this cute little jewelry box. And, I don't like the leopard skin, but I thought it was adorable. And I found it just for $1. And I thought, after all, I'm here to support the church, so why not? And it was a lovely little girl that was selling stuff so that she can save money to buy some books that she likes. So I thought, hey, that was really cool. So I decided to start taking apart this chair, and yes, believe it or not, I'm going to cover it in moss. I thought of covering it in all these beautiful shabby chic, floral, beautiful fabrics, and I finally ended up with a moss. Go with me here. I thought it would be cute as a fairy's throne. I don't know, that's how I saw it. And besides, I just thought, well, it's already in leopard skin. What's the worst that I can do to it? And yes, the worst that I can do to it is adding moss. So all I'm doing here is adding moss in these moss sheets. And I bought this one actually on Temu, but they also sell these at Hobby Lobby and other hobby stores, I'm sure, like at Michael's and stuff. And it was the easiest way to use the moss on this chair. Now, the the fabric that I used, or the moss that I used, had this very heavy, thick black felt on the back of it, and I noticed that if I ripped the felt off, it was much easier to maneuver and to place onto the chair, and it wasn't as thick, so it was easier to keep the original, shape of the chair. And I love the heart shape. It's also, I don't know why, it also is reminiscent to me of Alice in Wonderland. This would be something that the Queen of Hearts might sit in, so I thought that was also another nice connection, since I do like Alice in Wonderland. So all I'm doing here is covering each one of the parts. So, first the top front, and then I'll do now the chair. And one thing to remember, and I don't know if I showed it before, but this little chair does open up, and it has a cute little mirror, which I cleaned up afterwards, but it's a perfect little storage area just to, hold some knickknacks. It's perfect to have right by my bedside for those earrings I forgot to take off in front of my jewelry box. What's funny is I have seen jewelry boxes like this at Ross and TJ Maxx, and they've been on clearance before, but I just didn't like the fabric, and I'm so silly because I should have known better. I could have changed the fabric. Even if you find a small little jewelry box, let's say that's round, you can make the back of this chair very easily. It's just cardboard, and you can shape it as a heart, just like this one is. And I don't use tools properly, but I thought this was the easiest way to glue with the hot glue without burning myself too much, is using that little spatula that I had close by. Does that happen to you? Do you just grab the nearest tool and keep working? You don't stop and look for the appropriate tools, or maybe just look for, I know I have those finger covers and I never seem to find them when I need them. So last but not least, I'm finishing up the bottom of that little throne, and I'm just adding this little piece of moss, and then at the very bottom I'm using the part of the moss that I didn't use, which was that felt, and I am covering the bottom so I don't have to see that leopard print. I don't know, do you like animal prints? I don't know if I'm really into leopard prints. Maybe in the 80s I was, but not anymore. And now I am embellishing with these cute tiny little ladybugs. Don't ask me where I found them. You just find things, they pop up in your craft room, you don't question why. You're like, oh, I'm just glad to have them. And of course, a little mushroom, because that is perfect for a cottage core. And just adding some little blossoms and blooms to make this little throne complete. And I'm so happy because I love to collect vintage and, an antique, how can I call it, botanical jewelry or flowered jewelry that was very big, and especially enamel jewelry. There's a lot of flowered enamel jewelry out there, and I think this came out just darling to have all of my lovely antique jewelry. One of the beautiful things I love about spring is just refreshing your home, refreshing all your decor, and the easiest to do that is just spiffy up stuff that you might have around the house or that you find on the side of the road. Actually, I found this in my garage. I'm sure somebody gave it to me, and I decided, well, it's time to spiffy this up. That wood, that orangey wood color has nothing to do with what we're doing nowadays in decor. So here I added this beautiful sagey spring green color. And I had, of course, branches that I picked up in my backyard, and this cute little metal birdhouse that I had hanging around as well. I think I bought it on clearance last year. Now I'm just painting it. I decided to paint it this beautiful sunny yellow color, and I aged it a little bit. I put a little bit of antique wax on it, and now I'm adding my branches. I don't know what it is with me and twigs, but I love adding twigs and branches and things. And this could be used as a frame. It could be used as a small wreath. It could be used any way you like. So I decided it's going to be like a little wreath. Now I'm just adding some moss wherever you need to add moss, and the more moss the better. Sometimes it makes a mess though. I mean, gosh, I wish there was like, you know how they have glue with glitter. Why can't they have glue with like moss already in it? I mean, I could do that, but I don't know if it would work. I think it would be like gluey moss. It just doesn't look right. Anyway, I'll talk to people. see what's out there. But anyway, I love using the moss just to hide like where the branches are meeting together, so it doesn't distract from the design. And of course, I'm adding some foliage. This is, I believe, from the Dollar Tree. I'm not sure. I just had like and there's a little kitty hand. That's a little kudu who helps me out while I'm crafting. And yeah, I'm just adding some greenery. You can add any kind of greenery you'd like. Now you can make if you have a frame around the house and you'd like to do something similar, pick up some branches that you have around your backyard or your front yard or when you go walking in the park. And if you don't have a birdhouse, you can just make a little, with some moss, you can make a little pretend nest and put some little Easter eggs in there. It's anything you like. And if you don't have any of those items and you just have some florals, you just add the florals. It does not have to be exact, but I'm just here to inspire you. So I hope that you're inspired to create something sweet and pretty to hang in your home. And again, here I am adding my florals. I decided pink. I have a thing with pink and light green. Have you noticed? Have you noticed? So I don't know if this is shabby chic or it's cottagecore. I feel with the amount of leaves and moss, I think it's more towards cottagecore, but because of the colors of that, light green and the pink and the yellow, I don't know. I think sometimes it's shabby chic. Either way, it'll match in your home. You could put a ribbon on top. I go ribbonless most of the times, but there you have it. I think it's lovely for any wall in my home or even in my front door. And there's another little paw checking out what's going on. So just try this yourself at home. And if you do, please share it with me on Instagram. I would love to see how I've inspired you, and I would love to see your creations. Now, I absolutely love Easter, but I wanted to create a more faith-based Easter decoration. So I hope this inspires you to create something a little different. Everybody's using the bunnies and the Easter eggs, and I love those too. But sometimes we lose sight of what is really happening in this season. So number one, I want you to realize that although this might look like a Bible later, it's not a Bible. Not at all. This was actually a book that was being thrown out at work. So I picked it up because you know how I am with things being thrown out at the office. So I believe this, like a bunch of these books were received and they were old already and we no longer needed them, or I don't know the whole story, but I decided to pick up a few for some crafts. Now, I'm not throwing out the inner part of those pages. No, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to use that. Now, if you've seen me make my Enchanted books, it's a very similar process. However, I opened the book up in the middle of the book to use it as decoration. So this is very painstaking. It takes a lot of time, but it is well worth the effort. I wish the book was a little deeper because I wanted to make the images or the design a little deeper in the book itself. But I think this works out just fine. And all I'm doing is cutting out, and I didn't really measure it because it's not like I'm putting it behind a frame. But as you can see, I measured it the same on both sides. And what I'm going to do is putting images in the book that remind me of Easter, or, significant images that remind me of Easter. And again, you can use it, if you're not religious, that's fine. You can use images of like vintage images of the rabbit, or Peter Rabbit, even. That would be really pretty. Or if you love like literature, you can use like Jane Austen books. I almost said Austin Powers. That we don't want to. No, we don't need to make decor based on Austin Powers. But if that's your thing, babe, as he would say, you go with it. Just rock with it. So here are the beautiful images that I found on the internet. I don't know if they're free or not. I'm not going to sell them. I'm just using them as an example. I'm hoping that it's okay. I don't know. They just popped up and I just picked the first images that really spoke to me. So I hope there's no problems with that. Now, all I'm doing is I'm going to decoupage both images there. And if you haven't met Luna before, this is my little kitty cat Luna, who's making sure that I'm doing everything properly done. She is my quality control cat. Now, after I applied the Mod Podge, I let it dry a little. I wrinkled it. I know, I wrinkled it. And I let it dry a little, so it's still a little tacky. And then once I did that, I put the paper on top, the image on top, and I ironed it with my little mini iron. And I will do the same for the other side. Again, these images meant so much to me when I saw them, and I thought I wanted to display them in a very different and interesting way. So same thing, I put the Mod Podge on, and this is the matte Mod Podge. Not that it matters, because I don't think it matters. It's up to you. But it's the matte Mod Podge, or whatever it is that you particularly use. Now you can just use a glue stick or a stick glue or Elmer's glue, whatever you'd like, white glue, PVC glue. And I'm doing the same thing, and I'm trying to stay away from Luna because she gets her little paws in my crafts. But no, she's safe. Don't worry, you guys. She is very safe there. They didn't want to go into their boxes today for some reason, so she's sitting there and guiding me. She is my little spirit guide for crafting. Now I am I'm actually painting the pages, the interior pages, with Mod Podge to try to glue them together so they can stay together. And again, because it's Mod Podge, it's okay. I'm going to seal those images as well. And I think for this, I actually used gloss Mod Podge to seal in the images. And I'm also gluing the outside of the pages, or the outside rims of the pages, just so that they stick together. So if I move the book around, the pages don't flap or anything else. And yeah, that's a pretty simple process. Now, here's what's going to be different. I'm using one of these Dollar Tree cutting boards, and you've seen them, these little wooden cutting boards. And all I'm going to do is stand my book on these cutting boards, because again, these are what I like to call enchanted books. So a little bit of the story of the Christ Passion and the resurrection will come out and flow out of those book pages onto that wood board. Now here comes the fun part, because like I said, you're going to bring these images to life. And there's little Luna still watching me. Here I'm going to use this Spanish moss. It's dark, it's brown, it's pretty much dead. And of course some dead pieces of wood that I picked up in a bark that I picked up as I walk around my neighborhood. And as I said before, I'm just trying to bring the feeling of that first image to life and make it come out of the book onto this wood board so that you can have this as a centerpiece. I think this is perfect as a mantelpiece decoration. And it took me a few hours, but I think it's such a meaningful and such a lovely remembrance of what Easter truly is about, that I really am looking forward to, displaying this year and for years to come. Now I'm just adding moss to the inner pages to, for those edges of the pages, so you don't necessarily see the pages. Oh, and I also forgot to say I gilded the outside pages as well. That's why you see them darkened like that. I thought it would be nice just to put a little bit of it's like a dark bronze, so it looks vintage. And I continue adding some flora and fauna to that crucifixion side of this project. But that is not what we're necessarily celebrating. And of course, I had to add it's a little bigger than I wanted to. I added this crown of thorns just as a remembrance. And I also added some nails and this tiny little hammer that I made out of the wood that I had left over. And again, it's just to commemorate and reflect upon the crucifixion and God's sacrifice. But now we're going to celebrate the resurrection on the other side. And this is going to be completely different. I'm starting off with some moss. I had some moss sheets, and I decided to put that down as the base for what I'm going to create on this side, on the resurrection side of the book. And I don't know if you've ever seen anything like that. If you have, I would love to find out. I hadn't really seen, I'd seen it just, one side, or I'd seen people just put the images on top of the paper, but not cut the images into the paper. So I thought this would be pretty. And I love the staircase. And there's Luna again. I have both of them coming in to check. And I thought it was funny that one side's on the light side, the other one's on the dark side. kind of like them, their mischievousness. But I love the staircase of those rocks going out of the cave, so I wanted to recreate that, and just picked up some rocks on my walks, my nature walks around the neighborhood. And lastly, I wanted to add some flowers, and I thought it was important to add some beautiful purple blooms and white and yellow blooms. There are a few pink ones, but I wanted to stay within the purple, white, and yellow, just as reverence and remembrance and celebration of God's resurrection. I hope you're all getting excited about planning for Easter and spring with your families. I love celebrating Easter with my family. I have so many fond memories of my mom. Of course, I still miss her. It's been 2 years. Actually, it's going to be 3 years this year. I can't believe it. And Easter, she used to love Easter so much. She used to love the flowers and the celebrating and just dressing up and going to church for Palm Sunday and Easter Sunday. So however it is that you celebrate, I hope that you have such a blessed, wonderful time with your families. And maybe this is something that you can bring as a gift to a home that you're going to be visiting during Easter. I think this would be so lovely for anyone to receive. And now I'm going to create what I like to consider my style of Fabergé eggs. And I'm starting off with this Dollar Tree Easter egg. It's like a large Easter egg. And I have what they call amazing resin. Well, it's just called amazing resin. It's not that they call it well, they called it amazing. You get what I mean. It's called amazing resin. It's a 2-step process for this amazing resin because it cures within 10 minutes. There's no fumes, there's no bad smells, and it works really, really fast. Watch time lapse. Look at this. Isn't this cool? So as it hardens, it turns from clear to white, and it is truly amazing. So I bought it on Amazon, and it was suggested. I first found out about it from Erin of the Provincial Farmhouse. She has wonderful ideas, and she's always been so inspirational for me. So I appreciate this cool trick. Now I took the egg outside. I painted the inside, spray painted the inside with gold metallic paint and the outside with white, just to make, I guess, like, because it's slick, because it's plastic, I wanted to have like a primer. So the white spray paint acts as a primer. Now here I have unmolded all of my resin items. I'm going to have these little borders and that beautiful little frame inside. And I was just trying to make sure, and look at this beautiful little garland as well. So now I'm going to paint the outside of this egg, and I have this beautiful, I don't know what kind of color this is, but it's like a pearlized blue folk art paint. I absolutely love it. I was thinking in between either purple or blue, and I just went with the blue because it's so springy, it's so pretty. And you know, I have this fondness for greens and blues. I don't know if you've noticed that. And pink and gold. So I'm using all of these ideas in my projects today. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of that beautiful pearlized blue into the inside, because I felt like the little gold frame wasn't going to really stand out within that gold background. Now I am painting with folk art paint these beautiful frames, all these embellishments that this little egg is going to have. Well, it's rather a big egg. But at first I didn't like the color of, hello, little kudu, she came to say hello. I didn't like that light gold, and I did go over it with a chocolate gold color. You'll see it later. It's almost as if you had used, the chocolate gold almost looks like if I had used antiquing wax. So you can use antiquing wax, or you can use rub and buff, whatever is your preference. Now I was going to paint that garland completely gold, but you'll see what I do later. Now I'm taking this beautiful little painting, or this image of these two little birds over their little nest and little eggs. Oh my goodness gracious. Don't do voiceovers at night. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, don't do voiceovers late at night, because this is what it'll sound like. Now I'm using Mod Podge, and I have to say this resin is very accepting, even though it's like a plastic. It becomes a plastic. It is very receiving of the the acrylic paints and also Mod Podge. Now, as you can see in this little garland, I decided to give it a little color. And I'll tell you, once again, it was Erin who inspired me, because she did that for Christmas. She actually added color, and it wasn't all one color. Now here I am adding a little bit of that chocolate gold. It's like a very deep, rich, warm gold color. So I thought I would add it just to make all the little, details of that frame pop out. Now I'm using super gloss, like super base, super gloss over that painting, just to make it really look like as if it was a jewel or something hanging in the middle of this Faberge eggs. Now I love Faberge eggs. I love, finding out about them. And if you don't know anything about them, they were from Emperor Nicholas, I think. I can't remember now. It's too late at night. Anyway, he would give his wife these beautiful Faberge eggs and he was like the Tsar of Russia, and before the revolution, and he would give his wife these beautiful ornate Easter eggs every year for Easter. And yeah, they were gorgeous. They're stunning. And there are so many stories involved with Faberge eggs. I have to look it up one day and just read them out to you. It's just fascinating. Anyway, here I'm adding the final accessories, including one of those little tiny crowns from Totally Dazzled that I had received during Christmas. And here I'm just showing you how to use glue sticks, small pieces of glue sticks, to support the garland that I am going to attach at the very bottom. I also painted a glass candlestick in gold, and now I'll show you the final reveal after I have a few little scratchy seconds with my little kitty cat. Here's a great idea for a really captivating centerpiece. I know there's a lot of events that are going on now in the spring. We have bridal showers and baby showers and graduations and Mother's Day and just fun little tea parties with your friends. So here is a great way to use your tier tray. Now, if you have a metal tier tray or a heavyweight tier tray, something that won't be falling over because of the weight of a teapot, this is a perfect way to use it. And I would also suggest, please don't use a ceramic teapot, because if it falls over, I don't want to take any responsibility. I really don't. So I'm using this teapot that was actually given to me by one of my viewers, Tonya. Thank you so much. She offered this teapot for me while I was decorating for the Deering estate for the Queen of Hearts tea room. So here I am just wiring up the handle of the teapot and tying it to the handle of this tiered tray. It really worked out well because the tiered tray, again, was a metal tiered tray, so it was a little heavier and the bottom of it was very secure, so I knew it wasn't going to tip over. Although it does look like the teapot is tipping over. Not only did I secure the top of the handle, I also secured the middle of the handle, as you can see there, with just a little bit of wire. Again, my lovely cat Guru is here to make sure everything is fine, and I am using that wired moss once again just to wrap it around, and I'm going to panic in just a few moments. Oh my Lord, she almost knocked over the camera. And there you go. So I am using this wonderful wired moss just to create like a vine to wrap around the teapot, and that also helps to hide that wiring at the top of the tiered tray. Now adding these beautiful florals from the Dollar Tree, and my suggestion to you, If you've never used Dollar Tree florals before, take advantage of them. They do have wonderful florals for $1.25. There are also florals for 98 cents, I believe, at Walmart, and you can use expensive florals. The mix-up of florals from inexpensive to expensive really makes it a beautiful display. Here I'm adding a little vine of little light purple flowers that were on clearance from Hobby Lobby. So these were already at, I believe, 75% off when I bought them. And look at how great they look. Because they're wired, I can control how they hang and dangle from the spout of that teapot. Now I'm adding some styrofoam to the top of my tier tray because that's where the floral centerpiece is going to be. And yes, I dance around while I am, doing my crafts. I also sing. It's so funny when I get frustrated for whatever reason, I sing the little goat herd from Sound of Music. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, the yodeling song. Don't ask me why. It's just one of those songs you just start singing when you're getting frustrated because you're just going to sing through whatever it is you're doing. But with this one, I really wasn't getting frustrated. I was just having so much fun. So once I added a little moss to the top of the styrofoam, now I'm adding all my lovely florals. I have Temu florals. I have Hobby Lobby clearance florals, Dollar Tree florals from wherever I have in my stash. I didn't go out of my way to buy any new florals, but again, you can customize this to whatever colors you have. And again, so many parties are going on right now, even for graduation breakfasts and birthdays. I think this is beautiful for a Mother's Day brunch. Wouldn't that be lovely? So I am preparing this for a friend of mine who's having a birthday party for her 80-year-old mom. So I hope that she enjoys this beautiful centerpiece on one of her tables this coming weekend. A couple of years ago, my brother and I made some floating teacups for Mother's Day. I will include a link to that video. It's a lot of fun, but I'd like to show you how to create a floating teacup. First thing, of course, you need a teacup, a fork, and a saucer. Now, what I'm going to do here is first I have to secure the fork, which I have bent into an appropriate shape, to the saucer. And the way I'm doing that is I'm going to add some hot glue, and I would also suggest adding some E6000, and I would glue the, what I like to call the forky part. I don't know what you call that part, if there's a name for it. The part with the prongs, I guess. I just scientifically call it the forky part. So once you have glued the forky part to the saucer, you're going to add some stones or pebbles, anything to weigh it down so that it can counterbalance the weight of the teacup once you add it to the fork, to the handle side of the fork. So as you can see here, I am using some E6000 to glue the metal of the fork to the porcelain or ceramic teacup. Once I have both of the glues onto the fork, I am going to clamp it down and wait and hope that it stays where it's supposed to be. Now I noticed that it was still a little wobbly, so of course I'm going to add some more rocks, and there you can see that it's even though it wobbles, it doesn't fall down. Remember Weeble wobbles? That's the thing. Now to add the moss, instead of adding the moss directly to the fork, I came up with this idea. I just created like a 4 to 5 inch long glue river, and I added the moss to a glue strip that I have placed on some parchment paper. And there is Guru just checking out and making sure I am not using catnip, but it is in fact moss. Once the inspection is completed, then I can rip the moss strip off of the parchment paper, and it is ready to be glued to the fork. I find this is a lot less messy, and it's just easier to manage, and you glue your fingers less this way. The other way, you have more of a chance of hurting yourself. So this is a much easier way, and I think this is a way that a technique I'm going to use for future products and projects, because that way I don't hurt myself. And as you can see, the moss mess is minimal. A minimal moss mess. There you go. So as you can see, I glued it first to the back of the fork, and now I'm gluing it to the front of the fork, hiding the apparatus. Now you can use a heavy gauge wire as well, but I find a fork is well balanced and it works perfectly to create these floating teacups. Now all I'm going to do is add beautiful little blossoms to the floating teacup. And here I am just adding these beautiful paper flowers that were actually found on Amazon. And of course I added a little bit of baby's breath. And I think these are wonderful centerpieces. And not only that, these will be takeaway gifts for this wonderful 80-year-old birthday party. Mr. McGregor's garden is the location for the tale of Peter Rabbit and many of the adventures that take place there. So that's where our adventure will start today. So today's theme is Mr. McGregor's garden, and I'll tell you a little more about this playlist later. But first and foremost, I want to introduce to you my idea of what a storybook or a fairy tale wreath would look like. So let's get started with this first item that I happened to find on the side of the road and what became my inspiration for the rest of this wreath. Now, it was dinged and dented and it was just on the side of a garbage can ready to be thrown away. And the solar lights didn't work either, but I saw a little bit of myself in this water pitcher because, it's like I'm a little dinged and dented and sometimes my light's not completely on, but I'm still fun and I still have a lot to give. So yeah, I am reviving this little water pitcher for this wreath. Now I decided to add this beautiful blue color because after all, Mr. McGregor's is part of Peter Rabbit storytelling. So since this is his garden, I thought this was like a perfect Peter Rabbit blue. If you've ever seen Peter Rabbit dressed up, he always has this beautiful blue jacket. So I thought it would be nice to add this to my little storybook wreath. If you haven't read Peter Rabbit, please go ahead and read it. I know it's a children's story, but what a nice way to just relax on an afternoon and reading Peter Rabbit. And if not, I would say look up the story of Miss Potter in the movie. And it is such a touching tale. It really is such a sweet movie. So if you have a chance, maybe you can watch that as well. Now, after I added the blue, I'm going to add black onto the handles, both on the top and on the side. And then I decided to add a little bit of aging and rust. And of course, the best recipe for rust is adding a little bit of cinnamon. You can add cinnamon or paprika and it does the job because rust has more than just color, it has a texture. And the cinnamon adds that texture so perfectly. So a little bit of Mod Podge and a little bit of cinnamon and voila, you have instant rust. So now that I've finished with this part, let me tell you a little more about the playlist that we have today. Here is my grapevine wreath. Look at the size of this thing. And I bought this, believe it or not, last year at Michael's for only $3. I absolutely love this grapevine wreath. And I was waiting for a special occasion or a special project to use this one in particular because it has a kind of oval shape instead of just being perfectly round. So I thought how perfect. They were probably getting rid of it because of the oval shape, and yet it suited my project just perfectly. I hope you like the way that little watering can came out. I really like the blue with the rust. Now, a disclaimer, I understand that a watering can would not have all these lovely little holes in it, but it's decorative. We know that, right? And besides, I am going to add some lighting back into this watering can as it was originally designed for solar lights. I don't have solar lights, but you'll see what I do. All I did was I wrapped the watering can to the grapevine wreath with some wire. I thought this was the most secure thing to do. I didn't want to use any glue for this, just the wiring, so I wired it in 3 different places, and shake, 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 it stayed in place. Again, I apologize that I couldn't get my camera any higher to get the full wreath while I was working on it, but we'll get through it together. If this is your first time here, I want to thank you for spending a little time with me, and I hope that I inspire you to create something beautiful for your home today. Now, I wanted to make sure that my wreath really reflected the storybook feeling. So, of course, I had to create like a wild meadow. So I thought this garland was perfect to add these greens to the bottom of the wreath to make it look like a wild English meadow. Next, I wanted to add some of those pots, those flower pots. However, I didn't feel comfortable having the little terracotta pots because I was afraid they would fall off. So I'm using these seed starter pots, and I'm going to paint them, as you can see here, to look like terracotta pots. I thought this was a great idea of being able to incorporate the terracotta pot look without making it dangerous. I don't know, I was just worried about the wreath falling off and the terracotta pot, just shattering to pieces. So just using a little bit of paint, and because it already has that rough exterior, looks like an aged terracotta pot. Not only with the orange, I'm adding a little bit of green and white and a little bit of baking powder or baking soda, whatever you can find, to just age it a little bit and just mesh it in, just blend it in, and I think it looks fabulous. Now, I needed some dirt, and for me, the easiest way to do this was get some old coffee pods. Believe it or not, I do save my coffee pods. I don't, throw them all away. Well, I don't keep them all. But I really try to, open them up and, get rid of the organic part, I guess the coffee, and then the plastic part separately so that it can be recycled. And so I thought this time I'll take some out and keep them for dirt. Since springtime is coming around, we need some dirt. So using a styrofoam cone that I cut up to fit into the pot, all I'm doing is adding some hot glue, and then I'm just putting it into the coffee dirt. I guess I should call it coffee dirt. And I actually used the little K-cup in the pot itself to hold the little piece of styrofoam. It works out perfectly because they do fit. And I was also thinking, if you don't have those little seedling pots, you can even just paint those little coffee pods and make them look like little terracotta pots. I think I might do that in another project. But for now, this is what I'm doing. Now for the edges, so that you wouldn't see the white edges, I'm also covering that in my coffee grounds / dirt. And then I'm just going to put that little piece of styrofoam inside, and you'll see it just all fit in so perfectly, and that fit perfectly into the little pot as well. And another disclaimer is, although I'm doing a lot of different projects, but it's all going to be part of the one big project, which is the wreath. So I hope that you can incorporate any one of these cute little projects into your spring crafts. Now, once I have my dirt, I found this little twig, or this little bunch of berries or blueberries that I had, I bought them on clearance last year after spring, and I literally think I paid maybe, I don't know, I think it was like 49 cents. It was $4.99. I paid 49 cents for this, but I thought this was perfect for my Peter Rabbit or Mr. McGregor's garden wreath. I really love the idea of a storybook wreath, because you should be able to just look at the wreath and just interpret or see the story of Peter Rabbit. Now, I don't have a little rabbit to help me, but I do have my little magical black cat Kuru just helping me out just by being there. She's just such a sweetheart. So I'm going to add the little terracotta pots to, I think I was watching someone on my phone there. I think it was funny. I'm adding my little terracotta pots to my wreath, and that I am just going to glue on. But because they're lightweight, I'm not worried about them falling off, because sometimes terracotta pots are just too heavy to add to a wreath in this manner. But these are absolutely perfect. To that second little pot, I decided to add a few little pink flowers, or I don't know if they're pink flowers or if they're supposed to look like mini succulents, but I just thought it was perfect. Now you'll notice that I'm not going to use any really There are a few bright colors, but I'm trying to think of what a, meadow filled with wildflowers, what that would look like. And yes, there's some muted tones, there's some fun colors as well, but I really am trying to keep the colors light and very similar to the illustrations of Beatrice Potter's books. And they were very muted and light colors, but still very beautiful and very rustic in a way. Now, speaking of colors, look at these beautiful coral flowers. I can't remember the name of these flowers, but these are new to Dollar Tree. I'd never seen these, so I just bought one bunch in that coral color and one bunch in white. And I thought it was cool because, the coral color, it kind of reminds you of carrots, and I just thought it was so pretty. So that little tiny pop of color, not so tiny actually, but that little pop of color to add to the rustic grapevine wreath and the wild garden, the wild grasses just beneath. I want to thank you again for stopping by, and if you are new here to my channel, I would like for you to consider subscribing so you can come back week after week and have more and new inspirations each and every week. Now, believe me, I work a full-time job, and this part of my life is so fun, and I enjoy sharing with others. And that's my little kitty in the background. And I really love to share with others, especially if you're a smaller channel. I would love you to be part of our community so we can help each other grow. Next, I decided to add some of these beautiful imitation lavender flowers. I absolutely love them, and I think these are some of the best florals from the Dollar Tree. Now, I actually had this in my stash already, luckily, as prices continue to increase at the Dollar Tree, but we won't talk about that. Only happy thoughts here. It's happening. What can we do? We can't do anything about it. But I really do love these lovely lavender flowers from the Dollar Tree. I have to, and there's a little, no, she didn't like that one there. So Kudu is lovingly pulling out the flowers as I'm putting them into the wreath. But that's crafting with cats. What can I say? And next, I decided to upgrade these little carrots. These carrots are also from the Dollar Tree, but I didn't like those little stems that they had at the end of them. So I got these beautiful leaves, and I think they look much more like carrot leaves than those little, I don't know what you want to call them, I guess tendrils. I didn't get rid of them, but I just added those leaves just to make them look a little nicer. I should have painted them as well, but I actually like that they're a muted tone of orange and not too bright either. Again, these are from the Dollar Tree. They're still at $1.25 right now. We'll see what they are. Maybe we should start stocking up for next year. I don't know. Maybe after the holidays, I'll stock up on some of these items because who knows what price they'll be next year. So here I am trying to figure out how to position my carrots, and I thought, maybe I'll just have one sticking straight up so it looks like it's coming straight out of the ground or something. But yeah, I think that was the most difficult placing was the carrots. I was struggling with the little carrots. And again, if you don't have the carrots, you don't have to go out and buy them. If you have orange fabric, or even if you have just plain burlap, you can make your own carrots out of burlap and a little bit of cotton stuffing, and all you have to do is paint the burlap orange, and there you have it. You have your own little carrots. Try to find ways of making things economical, like I am doing here, because I really wanted a little shovel, and I think I found one, and it was like something ridiculous, like $5.99 or something, and I'm like, no, I don't think so. So I took this old paintbrush that I was going to throw away anyway, and I used that as the handle, and I just used leftover cardboard. And there you go, it's from tape. And then all I'm going to do is use some tin foil or aluminum foil. What's the difference between tin foil and aluminum foil? Things that come into my mind while I'm making these voiceovers. And Luna, once again, is here making sure that we are following quality control procedures using the correct type of tin foil or aluminum foil. And somehow that was the crinkling sound was very, very interesting to her. So there I am. Do you have that problem when your cats get super interested in what you're doing and why? I don't know. It's just crafting, cat, But anyway, I really enjoy having their company. So I decided to make this shovel look a little more realistic by aging it a little. So I added a little bit of Mod Podge and a little bit of paint to make it look like rust. Of course, I added first a little bit of paint and then the Mod Podge so that I can add my cotton. No, not my cotton. Not cotton. I'm talking about my cinnamon. Always add a little bit of cinnamon whenever you're doing rust. You can also use paprika because it looks a little redder, but cinnamon works just fine. But we're not going to stop there. No, because, this is a shovel in a garden, and I think it would have more than just rust on it. So once again, I'm going back to my trusty Mod Podge and going back to my coffee pods. There you go. And it's so easy. Just add a little bit of Mod Podge, add a little bit of not cinnamon this time, coffee, and you got instant dirt. What about that? And you're saving the planet because, you're using that coffee. By the way, coffee is supposed to be very good for your plants. I got to start gardening one of these days because I'm not really a good gardener. So yeah, maybe I'll try that. But I've always heard that coffee is good for plants. Now, check out my little bunny. Look at my bunny. That bunny is usually $16.99, and I get it. 40% off would be like $10, $11 or something. However, I got this bunny for $3 because he doesn't have an arm, and it just so happens I don't need that arm on that side. It's actually very convenient for me. So again, something that other people would think, you could just discard or something like that. And I was able to get it at a much lower price. Maybe I paid too much for it, but it was in good condition otherwise, except for the missing arm. And if I knew how to use straw and make an arm, I would probably do that. But I don't have that kind of straw to make an extra arm. But it doesn't matter because I don't need it. So I'm filling up. Now, the basket had little eggs, little Easter eggs. But I didn't want this necessarily to be Easter. I wanted this to be, Peter Rabbit. So I took the Easters out. Did I throw them away? No, of course not. Never throw anything away if you can help it. But don't become a hoarder. Know the difference. Anyway, and now I have secured. Now I have to show you, I have an issue with my desk right now because it was filled with cats. So I could not place my big, huge wreath onto my desk. So I had to wire up the Peter Rabbit onto the wreath while it was resting on my chair. And yes, that's my robe. It was one of my mom's leftover robes, so I love wearing it, especially on crisp evenings here in Miami. It's like it's 58 or something. I know. Don't complain, right? Anyway, and as you can see, I'm using these beautiful fairy lights and placing them in the watering can so that it looks like water is coming out of the watering can. And once again, I create a dilemma for myself because I love this so much. I want to put it on the front door, but then I love this so much. I don't want to put it on the front door because I don't want it to get ruined. Now, I decided to create this cute little sign using this black and white gingham. I know it doesn't match the blue and white gingham, but I think it still matched because I would think Mr. McGregor would wear gingham or at least plaid shirts. So I wanted to make a little sign that said Mr. McGregor's Garden. And I didn't have a white pen, so this is actually a nail pen. I don't know if you've seen those, but I had bought it at the Dollar Tree and I was like, oh, this is perfect, instead of trying to write it out with like paint. Although I thought afterwards, well, it would have looked more rustic and cuter if it was written out in paint. But I just took my time and enjoyed creating Mr. McGregor's Garden sign and added some embellishments as well. Maybe Mrs. McGregor was the one that made the sign, and that's why it's so nice and neat. Because I'm sure she was very proud of her beautiful garden and all the hard work that her husband did. I also hope that you're very happy with the hard work I did on this wreath because I really, really enjoyed making it, and I'm also very proud of it. So let's take another look. I hope you enjoyed our little adventure into Mr. McGregor's garden and that you're inspired to create something beautiful for spring. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to come back for more. And as I always say, stay safe, be kind, God bless each and every one of you, and remember to live the adventure. I'll see you again soon.